Thanks for tuning in to more horse racing coverage with Chad Summers on a Monday, and this is a really good Monday, Chad. After what took place on Saturday and what we talked about on Thursday's show, and everything that we talked about the entire season with Cyberknife leading up to the disappointing Kentucky Derby, and then being able to get a reprieve with an incredible effort at the Haskell. That was just amazing. And congratulations on handicapping that horse and getting finally your just due in a big race like that because that was awesome.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is with the Kentucky Derby, and look, everybody wants to win the Kentucky Derby. It's the most famous race in America as far as the average sports fan goes, right? Everybody knows the Kentucky Derby. If you see somebody in the airport and you tell them you work with horses, their first question is, have you won the Kentucky Derby? However, the Kentucky Derby does not define a career, and I've often said that the Kentucky Derby isn't won by the best horse most times. It's won by the horse that has the best
We
trip.
definitely saw that this year.
On that day, Cyberknife did not have the best trip, and you look. I think Florent did the right thing. Everyone kind of harkened back that he ran 18th, but it wasn't really that he ran 18th. It was when he wasn't going to be 1, 2, 3. Florent did the right thing and just kind of wrapped up on him. He knows the horse very well, and we're seeing kind of the just desserts of that with the 2 runs since then, a win in the Matt Win, and now a staple, a second grade one, the first 3-year-old to have 2 grade ones to their credit this year, and at Cyberknife. And I think that race on Saturday was a culmination of what we've talked about since the first time we started doing these Monday shows, and why Cyberknife was on that top list, from the very beginning when nobody else had him there. Is he always hinted at this ability and this potential early on in his career from a very young age. And it was just a matter of when, not if, he would put it together in the afternoon. And breaking from the one hole as he did in the Haskell, and not wanting to go to the lead, letting some of the others kind of go to the lead, he ended up shuffled all the way back to second to last. And that wasn't maybe the initial plan, but it worked out perfectly because it gave him a target and it gave him the opportunity to not have as much time to think. And some of his other races, sometimes he's in the clear, he's laying second, he's loaded, and he just gets to playing around with some of the other horses, and it's cost him. And in this race, he was loaded, but he had to wait and he had to bide his time, and he did just that. And then he's got such an acceleration and a turn of foot. Florent Drew, after the race, likened it to a turf horse with the turn of foot that he's able to show when kind of let loose. And while Tyba was coming on the outside, he came up the inside, and Tyba wasn't going by him, no matter how long they went.
Yeah, I actually got the video here now, so we're gonna watch here. And now the beginning of the race, I will admit this. Once we get to about I think it was like the quarter mark, might have even been the halfway, and where Cyberknife was, and I know we talked about Jack Christopher more than likely because of the way that his sheet number looked. It was an inevitable bounce. We thought John and I talked a lot about that possibility, and so right now, yeah, we're at the quarter point, and he's 7th out of 8 horses. Mm-hmm. So now we're at the halfway point, and he's just about to start making a move. So I'm going to pause it here because basically, find my mouse. Okay, so basically, at that point, I'm looking and I'm going, he's got all these really good horses ahead of him, and he's so far back. I thought that it was almost like, is it going to be too hard for him to find the perfect trip around him? Is he going to get caught behind a couple of other horses? Was he starting a little bit too slow? I was almost thinking, because that's kind of rare, isn't it? Because it's not like he's a deep closer. It's just the type of horse, but it's just, I thought the strategy was perfect, of course, but I was just a little worried at that point that he was maybe a little bit too far back.
I mean, the thing with Cyberknife is he hasn't been that far back just because he breaks well, and he broke well in this race as well. But obviously there was a lot of speed kind of forecasted, and maybe it wasn't the horse we thought was going to go to the lead in Benvenego. But at the end of the day, he's very, very athletic. And I don't think his athleticism has really been given enough credit. And hopefully, throughout the course of the year, now as we move on to some big, big races to end the year, it's something that I think is going to be more prominently on display. And the fact of the matter is, while he's seventh there, and okay, what are you going to do? What's your strategy? When you're Florent Giroux at that point, inside, outside, in between. How's this race going to develop? These are the things that these jockeys have to determine while going 40
Yeah.
miles an hour and ambulance chasing behind them. But when you're on a horse like him, and Flo's not only ridden him for I think his last 7 starts, but he's also breezed him, I don't know, 15, 16 times in the morning time, and he knows what he has underneath him, and he's not the kind of horse that you have one run and then you're done, and everything needs to go right, the hole needs to open up. Yeah, and you saw kind of as you fast forward the race and you go to the top of the stretch, where even at that point he's still waiting to see where is
Yes.
the hole going to open. The hole is going to open up at some
Yep.
point. Will it be outside, in between, or inside? And once Taiba gets off the rail, and I don't think Mike Smith did anything wrong. There's some critics about Mike's ride, and this wasn't a Zenyatta in the Breeders' Cup at Churchill kind of ride. I thought he actually rode the horse perfectly. The horse is very, very light on experience, and he's never run inside of horses. When he broke his maiden, when he won the Santa Anita Derby, sat perfect trips. The Kentucky Derby, he wanted no part of it. And if you watch his breezes, and they're all on XBTV, every time he works, he's on the outside. He never works on the inside of horses. So for him to find himself on the inside in just his 4th career start, he didn't seem to be comfortable there. And Mike did really the only move he could do, because if he stayed in that spot, again, these aren't Ferraris, these aren't cars. Okay, if he stayed in that spot, the horse would just basically look like quicksand, and he probably would have run last. So I thought Mike did the right thing in getting him off the rail, getting him outside, and then when he did get in the clear, he did come with a big late run. But that was a decision that Mike was forced to make. Whereas Florent Giroux on Cyberknife had the options to pick and choose, and he felt like he had a lot of horse. Mike had to get outside, because if he stayed inside, it wasn't going to work out.
I don't know why there's any if there's criticism on Mike Smith, that's ridiculous in my mind, because of the fact that that's almost like that's probably coming from people who wagered on Taiba, and it was like, who's this Cyberknife, this 4th choice, beating our horse who's supposed to be superior? Not giving enough credit to Cyberknife, because we had talked about this, and you guys, especially on Thursday, adamant that he's due. He's due for his big win. He's due for the big stage, big win that has yet to come. Even though he came off a 6 sheet line in his last race, he ends up with a 5 in the Haskell. This was his big race. And you guys knew it was there. So I think that's what it is. It's sour grapes, because without that effort by Cyberknife, nobody's criticizing Mike Smith, because Taiba, I mean, it wasn't like he beat him like 2 or 3 lengths. I mean, that was a pretty close second place.
No, it was a good race, and I don't think that Taiba will come back for the Travers. You might see him in the Pennsylvania Derby next. So I don't think that they'll necessarily match up again until maybe the Breeders' Cup, if that's where Taiba ends up. But at the end of the day, look, he's a nice horse. This was a good race. I mean, there was 4 Grade 1 winners in this race. Right. Okay, and take nothing away from the race, and that they set a track record that it stood for 2.5 hours, and it's something that I think is important, and it's a resume builder, and it's exciting to see these 3-year-olds being as competitive as they were as we look ahead, because after the Travers and the Pennsylvania Derby, this show has kind of gone to a Breeders' Cup theme. There's no 3-year-old Breeders' Cup race, so horses like Cyberknife and Taiba and Jack Christopher are going to have to take on their older counterparts, and that's going to be very exciting. That being said, look, you have the Midsummer Derby coming up next. You have the Jim Dandy this weekend, which will kind of set the stage for who's going to be in that starting gate. come August 27th or 26th, whatever day it is. But I think it's shaping up to be a
Oh yeah.
great for sure.
And one thing I wanted to ask you is that so when I'm watching Cyberknife, when the opening occurred, and everything all of a sudden it's going, you go a mile a minute in your head. In my head, when I'm watching this, and I'm going, this is it. It's like you could just. I mean, that's the way I felt. It was like, this is it. He's going to do it. This is exactly what everybody's been talking. What you guys have been talking about. He's going to do it. And when he came down the stretch, it was interesting because it looked like, to me, it was like almost a beautiful thing to watch, because it. And I don't know if this was an illusion by my vision or I don't know, but it looked like the horse Cyberknife was just going. I mean, it's just so beautifully fast that it was just pretty to see. It's just, and it's a weird thing for me to kind of explain. I'm sure you probably understand what I'm talking about in a way, but it was like Cyberknife was pushing. He didn't need any help from the rider. It was like, I'm going and I am going to take this guy for a ride. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch.
No, I'll tell you, we've talked a lot on these last couple of shows about the new crop rule with you're allowed six uses of the crop. Florent used it one time,
There
so
you go.
he had 5 get bonus points for that or anything like that. But he only had to use it the one time. And the people who know Cyberknife best know the competitor that he is, and he loves to fight, and he loves to try and compete and win and all things like that. And I was glad that he was finally able to put it all together. And look, hopefully this is the start of what's to come. When you talk about a sheet line going from a 6 to a 5, it's almost perfect when you have 5 weeks in between now until the
Right.
Travers, where he'll probably need a 4 to win the Travers. So he just needs to continue to show that progression. But that's what horses do. As they continue to run and grow, and he's gone from a boy to a man, and it's at that stage now to where he's ready to take on those horses. When he was younger and still kind of learning the game, I don't think it was all there and it all clicked in. But hopefully this was the sign of what's to come, and if it is, it'll be great. And while the doubters remain out there, we'll get 7-8 to 1 in the Travers again, and that's fine too.
Because the doubters are going to be there. I think that's going to happen. Yeah.
Well, already, I'm seeing article after article that Nest, the filly that was second in the Belmont Stakes, that won the Coaching Club America by 12 on Saturday, should run against should run on the Travers because she got a buyer that was 2 points higher than Cyberknife. And at the end of the day, she might have run a higher buyer speed figure, but she came home her last 3/8 in almost 39 seconds, which is very, very slow. And Cyberknife got his last 8 in under 12 seconds, which is almost unheard of for dirt route horses. And I understand the track was fast at Monmouth, but I don't think that Belmont Stakes field was very strong. We talked about it at the time. And I think if Ness were to run in the Travers against horses like Early Voting and Epicenter and Cyberknife and horses like that, I don't think it's going to be the same trip and final result that we saw from her in the Belmont Stakes. And she's a lovely filly. Take nothing away from her, and she's getting better. But I would not recommend her take on the boys in the Travers.
And it sounded like with Brad Cox talking about the strategy, it sounded to me that it was about, and you talking about the immaturity of the horse, that maybe this is going to be the new strategy going forward, is more of a stalking to closing mentality. Do you think that's the case? It all depends on the field, of course.
I don't think it's a strategy from that standpoint. It's a race by race basis. Where you're post, where you're drawn. It's the thing is, at the end of the day, it's a luxury for a jockey to know that you can have plan A through Z.
Yeah, sure.
And not freak out. We talk about sometimes, especially on those Thursday shows, on the handicapping shows, pace dynamics, and this horse needs the lead and this needs to happen, or a closer, and the race needs to collapse in front of him. When you have a horse who's won on or near the lead, stalking, and now from mid pack, or even you can even call him almost a closer because he was seventh early on. It's just a good luxury to have for jockey Florent Giroux to know, hey, look, whatever happens at the break, whatever's happening in front of us or behind us, I got the horse that's able to adapt as need be. And you don't. That's a little bit of a throwback mentality, and you don't see a lot of horses that are able to do that.
Yeah, I mean that's just what I picked up. It almost, to me, it sounded like he was saying, and maybe I interpreted it wrong. He's like, well, when he's been in the lead before, things haven't worked out as well, and so this was a better situation for him.
It's just a focus thing for
yeah.
It's just about having that target to come chase, and a few targets, as opposed to normally he just has one target and he starts kind of playing around with them a little too much. It's almost like a snake that sees somebody that they want to eat, and they're like, oh, he's not going anywhere, so let me just kind of mess with him a little bit.
Okay, so that turned out to be a very, very good day and a good show again, because.
Well, and also, look, I think it goes without saying, but a very important win for owner Al Gold of Gold Square. This is a guy who spent 50 years going to Haskell's, and him and his friends were there, and his friends are talking about how they have every hat of the race, even before it was called the Haskell. They've always give away the Haskell hat. That's kind of their giveaway, and they're talking about how they have every single one of them. So to not only run in the Haskell, which was a big deal, but to win the Haskell, for somebody who loves Monmouth Park and New Jersey racing, and has supported it over the years, like Al Gold has. Just so happy for him and his family and the connections involved.
That's like winning the Super Bowl in your hometown.
Yes.
So, and by the way, I was glad to finally beat you guys. First time I think I've beaten you guys when you've been on the show with John in that matchmaker with Lamista. By the way, John did hit the trifecta in that one. He had three. His first horse didn't come in, but he did have the three in the. It wasn't a high-priced race, but a trifecta is a trifecta. It was a winning race. And matter of fact, one of our patrons, once again, I think it was Michael Kos, who was very happy. He said he's had a very financially productive day. So he thanked us once again. I think he said he made over $700 with several of the races, including the trifecta in that ninth race, and then of course with Cyberknife. So, and one of our patrons also mentioned, I don't know if he's a patron or not. I think he's just a viewer on our YouTube channel, mentioned how he was able to get Cyberknife locked in at 16-1. Because remember, we talked about that, about some of the locations that are giving you an opportunity to lock in the odds. And he said he was able to lock in Cyberknife at 16-1. So how about that? Doubled his money to lock in.
If we see if we can't keep that going this weekend.
And this weekend, now that is going to be, we've got 4 really good races that John and I are going to be able to handicap. The Grade 1 Bing Crosby. And by the way, you are welcome to come on at any time. I just don't. I can't ask you to come on every show. I know how busy you are, but if you ever want to come on shows you're not scheduled, you just tell me. But we've got 4 really big races we're handicapping on Thursday's show. The Grade 1 Big.
We'll leave that up to the viewers and the Patreons if they want me or not. I'm like the phone a friend in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Okay. The Grade 1 Bing Crosby and the Grade 2 San Diego Handicap are at Del Mar, and the Grade 1 Alfred G. Vanderbilt and the Grade 2 Jim Dandy are at Saratoga. What do we know? Do we know much about what to look forward to in any of those races so far?
Well, I mean, the Jim Dandy is the highlight of the quartet. Now, it's going to be a small field, probably looking at 6 horses. Jonathan's favorite, right? Small fields and stake races. Look, epicenter breeze this morning in a driving rainstorm, because guys like Steve Asmussen and Chuck McGahee are like the mailmen. They don't care, rain or shine. Your horse will work the day it's supposed to work. So he looked okay there. Had a big workout last week with Joel Rosario, but look, he's going to take on the top combo of Chad Brown, of Early Voting and Zenden. Early Voting won the Preakness and has just continued to get better and better and better. Zanden's been pointing for this race since the Kentucky Derby, been off by design. has gotten bigger, faster, and stronger. So while I was kind of against Jack Christopher and the Haskell, both Zandon and early voting are very, very live, must-use horses in this race. And there's a lot to kind of see and to be determined of what's going to happen in this race. We'll see who else kind of fills out, the rest of the card. But Tawny Port for Brad Cox coming in off his win in the Ohio Derby. So I think it's going to be a great race from a quality, not quantity standpoint. And that's kind of going to be the theme of this weekend. Right now, the Vanderbilt, it's Jackie's Warrior for Steve Asmussen. There'll be a few other horses in there. Jackie's Warrior, it's a handicap, so it's a weighted thing. Jackie's Warrior is going to be giving 10 pounds or more to most of the horses running against. So in that situation, it'll be interesting to see what Jonathan thinks about that from a sheet standpoint, where weight goes in to his kind of factoring, because you don't see that much anymore. Now you basically see horses are equal weights or a pound or two here or there. I know Cyberknife was giving 3 pounds to Jack Christopher, something that's also been not talked about at all on these shows. But at the end of the day, Jackie's Warrior, who might be the fastest horse in the country, maybe Flightline and Life is Good have something to say about it. But for right now, Jackie's Warrior is confirmed sprinter, confirmed to be the fastest horse in the country. Will be competing, and we'll see, if that weight catches up to him at the end. He's brilliantly fast, and he'll be in front. So, when they're coming down the stretch at Saratoga, the place where is known as the graveyard of favorites, will that extra weight on his back get to him? That'll be kind of the question at hand. And in California, it's interesting because Bob Baffert, who's back from his suspension, is going to be saddling the Dubai World Cup winner, Country Grammar, running in the San Diego, and he's going to take on some of the local horses from California, which they're okay. The Here Comes Harvard, the Funded, Stiletto Boys of the world. But Mandaloon is going to ship out from Kentucky for trainer Brad Cox. And look, Mandaloon has been he was put up over Medina Spirit, right, when they disqualified Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby last year. Is this a chance at Bob Baffert getting a little semblance of revenge? How does Country Grammar respond from his trip across the world? Remember, he did the Saudi Arabia trip where he was second into the Dubai World Cup, and now coming here, spent some time in Kentucky at the farm, came back under trainer Sean McCarthy, and is now with Bob Baffert, has been breezing well going into this race, but might need one to get the rust off. Famously, Jimmy Barnes, Bob Baffert's assistant, said that they used the Saudi Cup as a $20 million prep for the Dubai World Cup. So we'll see if they can use the San Diego at a $300,000 prep or whatever it is for the Breeders' Cup Classic later on this year.
Interesting storylines in every race. And then the Bing Crosby is the only Breeders' Cup Challenge race that is a sprint race. So we'll hopefully get a good field.
That's kind of wide open. I don't know who's going to go in there. That division is kind of wide open right now. The noms are interesting. Not a lot of quality on the noms, and a couple of them, CZ Rocket and Diamond Oops, actually ran an allowance race last weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that field comes together on Wednesday.
All right, and then the day that you were scheduled to return, that's going to be August 4th for the August 6th races, which is you got the 2 Breeders' Cup Challenge races coming up in 2 weeks. That's the Clement L. Hirsch and the Whitney, obviously the biggest one. Also, the Longines Test Stakes is at Saratoga as well. 3 Grade 1 stakes races that we'll be able to handicap, hopefully all 3 of them, as long as the fields are there, on August 4th show. Because we won't be back next Monday, so this will be the last race that we talk to you until either this Thursday or definitely next Thursday, August 4th, for those races. So the Whitney coming up in a couple of weeks. Can't wait for that. Who's into Whitney?
I mean, the Whitney is life is good if he comes. I mean, he's breezing with every intention of running in the race. I believe Tom Pletcher is also planning on running American Revolution, the second place finisher from the Stephen Foster last time. He's also winner of the Cigar Mile. It will be interesting to see if he runs them both or how that kind of all all plays out. We're also looking to see Olympiad in that race for Bill Mott, who won the Stephen Foster last time. So again, the questions are out there and they'll remain out there, even though Life is Good won the Pegasus so convincingly at 1.125 miles. And while the Whitney is only 1.125 miles, not 1.25 miles, the questions will remain. Is Life is Good as good around 2 turns as he is around 1 turn? Gulfstream certainly plays predominantly to speed, and he took full advantage of breaking well, outbreaking and outfooting Nick's Go, and just going on about his business. Here at Saratoga, speed holds okay, but it can get a little leg weary. So, this will be a good thing. He needs to win this race to move on to the potential showdown with Flightline in the Breeders' Cup Classic, along with all those other top 3-year-olds, which would set up for just maybe the deepest Breeders' Cup Classic field of all time if everybody were to make it there, healthy and happy and off their big wins. But he needs to win. I think even though Olympiad has had an unbelievable year, has the track record at Fairgrounds, won the Grade 1 in Kentucky, he still is going to be looked at as an underdog here compared to Life is Good. And if Life is Good were to get beat by Olympiad, while some might say that it's okay, there'll be a big kind of splattering of people saying that they don't think Life is Good can go that far, and they'd like to see him cut back to a race like the Dirt Mile, which he won last year.
A lot of good racing ahead of us, that's for sure. Can't wait. Okay, now we're going to wrap things up with our viewer questions. On our last Monday show a couple weeks ago, we had a couple different questions for our viewers. One was, did you have questions for Chad, or did you have something like, could somebody come up with a top 10 list or a top 5 list rankings? Nobody came up with any rankings for us so far, so it's still out there. Now we have our own polls that we're going to be coming up with soon.
I want somebody to ask us the top 5 places, the top 5 local eateries within the racetracks. That would be a good one.
Are you going to anyone coming up soon?
No, I'm just hungry as we do the show. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, it is lunchtime. Okay, that's a good one. Top 5, and start anywhere. Saratoga, especially now with the meat.
The carving station at Santa Anita is tough to beat, I'll be honest. Give a little sneak preview.
Okay.
But anyway.
All right. Now, because we have, I'm just looking through to see, because we do have a couple of the rankings, polls, if you want to call them, that we've already got set up coming up sometime in the near future. And I think they revolve around the Breeders' Cup. So, top Breeders' Cup upsets of all time. So that's coming up on the 12th. Our September 12th, not August 12th. Our September 12th show is top Breeders' Cup upsets of all time. And I think we have top Breeders' Cup races of all time is going to be on October 24th, Monday. So those are 2 of our all-time rankings that we're going to be coming up with in the next few months. But if you have any others, just let us know and we'll put them together. Now let's go with those questions for Chad. MR Guitar 0610. Not sure what that's about, but he wants to know, why not discuss with Chad or John the monthly costs of owning a horse? Is it better to own 1 horse or 4?
It depends how much money you got.
Okay.
Look,
so if you have the money, go with 4.
Here's the thing. There are set costs with owning a horse. The trainer fee, depending on what state you're in, the fees will be different. Obviously, there's more fixed costs in the state of New York and California than there is in Kentucky and Florida, for example. So you might get a day rate, as it's called, which is basically an all-inclusive price point of everything, from taking care of the horse and riding the horse and feeding the horse. Where in Florida and Kentucky, it could be anywhere between $80 to $100. In New York now, it's basically between $110 and $150 a day per horse. And then you'll have other costs. Some people put their supplement charges on there. Some people have, the blacksmith is $200 now. That's changed a lot from when I first came on the track. And it's funny now, especially with the HISA thing starting August 1st, everybody has to wear the exact same shoes. So it's going to be a little Stepford Wives situation, but it'll still be $200, every time the horse gets shot, which is about once a month. You'll have, race day fees as far as, running the horse and taking care of the horse and things of that nature. And then you have the doctor. Obviously you would prefer the doctor bill to be as little as possible, but, sometimes the horses get sick or have an infection or whatever. And so you need to, have your doctor, take care of them and that. So you're looking at roughly anywhere between $3,500 to $5,000 a month would be kind of your rough cost, and that obviously doesn't include the commissions. If the horse were to be 1, 2, 3, then the trainer and the staff have a commission kind of attached to that, somewhere between the 10 to 15% range, depending on the arrangement that they have with their clients. And I think as far as you have 1 or 4 horses, look, it's cheaper to have one. You're better off having 4, just from the standpoint of, if you have one, God forbid the horse gets
Anything can
sick or
happen. Yeah.
anything, you have no action, right? You have no. Whereas if you have 4, you have more of a chance of horses running. And look, no matter who's your trainer or who buys your horses at the sale, some will hit and some will miss. And there's no perfect strategy. There's no perfect plan. It's just a matter of putting the irons in the fire and having the best team around you that you possibly can, and that leads to the most success. But it's difficult and it's frustrating. For example, the horse that John has 1 horse, and she's out with a minor injury. It's not nothing major, but it caused her to miss Saratoga, where this is a track where Jonathan lives year round and would love to have show off to his friends, the horse, in the paddock before the test, or whatever, in a couple of weeks. So if he had 4 horses, hopefully I wouldn't mess all 4 of them up, and we'd have some more action. So
That makes sense.
It really
Yeah.
is just a case by case thing, but it's expensive. If you can do it with some friends and partners that you can get along with, which as soon as a horse gets good, the partnerships stop getting along, ironically enough. But if you can kind of defer your costs a little bit, so you're
Yeah.
not responsible for 100% of the bills, that's really the best way of going about it, and still being involved in the game. And I promise you, when you turn for home, whether you own 5% of the horse or 100% of the horse, you are losing your mind if you have a piece of Cyberknife, for example, in the Haskell. It doesn't matter how much percent you own at that time. That's your horse, and you're united to try and get the victory.
And training wise, you prefer having less. Is that what you had said before? You don't really
Well,
want a huge stable of horses to train. You'd rather have a handful.
yeah. Look, it is. It's kind of a 6 and 1/2 dozen thing, because the way to make the most amount of money is to have those major stables, 200, 300 horses. I mean, for example, Todd Pletcher ran more horses over the weekend. Um, Chad Brown won more horses over the weekend than I'll probably run the entire Saratoga meet. So they have a lot more kind of opportunities to earn and to make money, and for horses to continue to go on. But look, it is not easy to manage a stable of 150, 300 horses where you're stabled at 5, 6 different barns. I mean, Chad Brown Park Saturday for the races, and they had a great day, and they won 4 stakes and won 5 races overall. Um, that might have been his first time at Monmouth Park, and I can't tell you how long.
Wow.
And he has 40, 50 horses there. So you have a lot of trust in your assistants, and you're constantly on the phone, and to be able to manage them is a really, really special skill set. And look, Steve Asmussen and Todd Pletcher and Chad Brown, for example, have done a brilliant job of managing that, because it's not an easy thing to do. And those guys, they know everything that goes on with those horses. They don't miss anything. You can call them and ask them about any horse, and they'll tell you what they're doing, how they're doing it, and more than likely the races that they're pointing for. Some people have 10 horses and can't tell you that. So it all kind of depends on your style. I'm very kind of hands on, so I like to be able to see what's going on in my shed row and see what go at nighttime and say, okay, who didn't finish their feed, or who do we have to back off, or who do we have to change the plan, or things of that nature. So it's just kind of a personal taste, but whichever works for you is good for you. You know what I mean?
Sure. All right, Richard Buckler, and I think Richard's the one who, pretty sure he's the one who said that he got Cyberknife at 16-1.
Representing UK.
What's that?
He's representing us in the UK.
That's right. Richard Buckler. Chad, the dude is back. Saratoga, trying to work out which Euro shippers are the ones to look out for.
So right now it's quiet. The only Euros here, Joseph Bryan sent a string of 6, and they came with high expectations. There was a couple of horses that had got beaten early on at the 2-year-old year by horses that came back and ran Royal Ascot, but they've been a disappointment so far. He ran a couple to limited success. I think he had a 4th place finish with his first runner. So kind of interesting to see how they continue. They're planning on staying the rest of the meet, so maybe they'll get another go at it. Maybe some more time over here will be to their benefit. As far as the other European horses that are here right now, the Godolphin horses that both finished second in the Belmont Oaks and the Belmont Derby on 4th of July weekend, they remained here for Godolphin. They're going to run in a few weeks in the Saratoga Oaks, or whatever that is called, in the Saratoga Derby, the mile and 3/8 race or 3/16 race for the 3-year-old. So I would think they're live. And look, we're always looking to see who else is going to ship in for races later on in the meet, possibly like the Sword Dancer. What happens with the Arlington Million card August 13th? Is it going to be at Churchill Downs? Will the Europeans ship over there, or are they more prone to shipping to New York and take on the races up here instead? That's going to be determined within the next week or so, I would imagine. So, a lot of moving parts, not a lot of European horses on the grounds right now. I'm just seeing, what their travel kind of plans end up being at the end of the day.
All right, and the last question from Cesar Alvarez. What Saratoga trends should we keep an eye out on? And this was a couple of weeks ago, so trends are probably even more, I guess, hopefully easier to identify. Belmont, Keeneland, Gulfstream Park shippers, that's in question mark. How does the inner and outer course play?
So normally, it's very strange. Normally, the inner turf course plays predominantly to speed because it's obviously the shorter track, so you save the most amount of ground when you're on the front and you're able to kind of go on. This year, I think of the last 10 races they had on the inner turf, there's only been one wire-to-wire winner. So it's actually playing against speed, which is very, very concerning. Or not concerning, just interesting. It's a trend and a stat line to continue to paying close attention to as the meet goes on. This year, the track is much deeper. The times for the races, the final times, have been much slower than we've seen in years past, which ends up making it a little bit of a tiring oval. But that being said, speed has held its own. Favorites have done well. We always talk about it being the graveyard of favorites, but the favorites have actually won about half the races here so far, which is certainly a higher number than we're used to seeing. And as far as where they've had the most success from shipping, it's really, really been wide open. Horses that have stabled here, that have been here longer, that came in April and May, seem to have been doing very, very well. Trainer Jeremiah Englehart won a couple races early on in the meet. He's been stabled here since it opened. And, Chad Brown, Todd Pletcher, the 1-2 leaders of the meet so far, along with Christophe Clement, always have a large string preparing here, have a work or two over the track, which seems to be playing in their favor. But there's been some Kentucky shippers. There's been a Jersey shipper that ran well. Mark Cassey starting to heat up a little bit with a couple of his horses. One came from Gulfstream Park, a 2-year-old first time out, and the Kentucky guys are doing well. So really, they can come from all over. It's been fair, but if you do have a work over the track, I do think that's beneficial.
All right, Chad. Awesome job as always. More questions. Anybody has any questions for Chad? He will be returning
whenever that's up to Patreon and the viewer nation.
Well, you'll definitely be on a Monday show on August 8th. That's your next Monday show. That's when we get to recap the Whitney.
Yes, sir.
And a few of those other races. But Chad will be on definitely the August 4th show. That is to preview the Whitney and the other races we talked about. And if you want Chad to be on this Thursday show, well, let us know. And
there you go.
Chad, chances are I'm probably going to be talking to you on Thursday. So thanks a lot as always. Go get some lunch and we'll talk to you soon.
You got to have a good one, guys.